Welcome aboard the AM News. Let's start with that first story to do with the University Teachers Association of Ghana, which has suspended its industrial action temporarily. Now, this followed an emergency meeting by UTAG's National Executive Committee on Monday to evaluate their ongoing strike. Prior to this, meetings held between the leadership of UTAG, Parliament's Education Committee, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, the Education Minister, and the Labour Minister last week had ended inconclusively. Here are excerpts of the statement released after the meeting. At the 21st of February 2022. And it says, updates on UTAG strike action. The National Executive Committee of UTAG held an emergency meeting today, the 21st of February 2022, at the University of Professional Studies, Accra, to deliberate on the way forward regarding the withdrawal of teaching and related services on the various campuses. But so it gives some details of some actions in there. And at the end of the meeting, the NEC of UTAG resolved as follows, that UTAG should heed the advice of the eminent leaders, the Select Committee on Education, and the court ruling to suspend our strike up to the 4th of March 2022 to engage with government. That in line with the bylaws of UTAG, the general membership must be informed for ratification or otherwise of the decision to suspend our strike action. And they are informing that 1, a roadmap for the negotiation between government and UTAG has been agreed. 2, the employer has committed to improving the conditions of service of UTAG members. And 3, that negotiations will commence in earnest and be completed within the agreed period and the outcome communicated to members. Following from these, UTAG members are kindly informed of the decision of the NEC to temporarily suspend our strike action. It ends. The NEC of UTAG counts on the support of all members as we work to secure improved conditions of service for the university teacher. It's signed by Professor Solomon Nunu, the national president, and Dr. Asare Asante Ano, the national secretary. We'll be bringing you more details of that when we get into our news review. But let's get into our second story now. The governing New Patriotic Party says its members who are interested in contesting as polling station executives will have by close of today to file the party as described as unfortunate. Now, speaking to the media Monday, national chairman of the MPP, Freddie Blay, disclosed that the party had dispatched a team of officials to affected constituencies on a fact-finding mission and warned that party functionaries who are found to have played any role in hoarding the forms will be sanctioned.
Monitoring the process keenly since it started. Notwithstanding all the adequate preparations to ensure a smooth process in these elections, there have been reports of pockets of incidents happening in some of the constituencies. A few are Kede constituency, Menchia North, Bosmasi, Bosome Frehun, Ningo Pram, among others. There are also video disturbances being circulated on social media platforms as a result of purported instances where party people have been denied access to buying of the polling station application forms. The party wishes to emphasize that it has made available adequate nomination forms for the polling stations' electoral area election committees, which are mandated committees for the conduct of the polling station electoral areas elections in the 38,622 polling stations across the country. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, on this note, the National Party has decided to extend the sale of the polling station application form by 1 day. That is tomorrow, Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022. The national leadership of the party is per this press conference directing all polling stations, electoral area electoral committees to make available the application forms to all eligible party members who wish to partake in the polling station elections. It is also assuring all eligible members that the party will take steps to ensure that application forms are made available to them. With immediate effect, the party investigations and, where necessary, disciplinary sanctions will be applied.
Now, the Buffer Stock Company Limited has assured senior high schools across the country will not shut down over the shortage of food. There have been concerns from head teachers and various teacher unions about the inadequate supply of food, hampering the smooth running of the school. The minority in parliament alleges government owes the Buffer Stock Company about 300 million Ghana cedis. But the Buffer Stock Company insists schools will not shut down over the shortage of food. CEO Hanan Abdul Wahab, however, tells JoyNews 130 million cedis have been released to suppliers to address the situation.
Yeah, it's the issue of cash flow, which as at last week we have disbursed 130 million Ghana cedis to the suppliers. So the fear of headmasters of inadequate food in their stores or warehouses would be sorted out soon, because most of the chairs have cleared on Friday. So suppliers started their procurement and distribution today, Monday. We have received some signals from other parts of the country that suppliers are.
The 130.
And also send the invoices to Ministry of Education also in batches. Okay. So a supplier, there is 80% probability that in every batch, we have suppliers representing every batch. So once we are paying a particular batch, it cuts across. So most suppliers get paid within that particular, payment. So with this 130 million, almost all the suppliers have gotten some money to go in there and then continue with the supplies.
And so schools across the country can expect some food.
Yes, for sure. Yes.
But you say some money, it means that we still owe them.
Exactly.
How much?
The point is that I want you to, understand this. As we speak, every day, invoices keep on coming because suppliers are on the ground supplying. Government will always owe suppliers. That's the reality. Even when you clear the debt today, tomorrow new invoices will come. So that is how the system works. And that makes it better than reverting back to the schools where headmasters will not be able to go to the market and credit food items from the market because of what? Lack of guarantee. You understand?
Yeah. Is it true that government owes you 300 million?
No.
It's not true?
It's not true.
Government owes you more?
It's not true. Not more, but it's not true. But like I said, government has released 130 million Ghana cedis last week, which we have disbursed. And from now to the end of the week, you would hear, the schools will confirm to you of availability.
Our next story, victims of the January 20 explosion in Piazza are demanding timelines from government for the completion of their new homes as the rainy season approaches. The petition comes as government takes frantic steps to complete some 89 uncompleted structures originally created for the people of Odumase, a community sitting on the concession of a mining firm, Future Global Resources. Now, at a Durbar of chiefs and people of Piazza Monday, some of the victims completion of the project from the Lands and Natural Resources Minister.
We want to know how soon the reconstruction will be completed for us to move in, because very soon the rains will set in and that could worsen our plight.
It's due to somebody's negligence of duty.
We appeal to leadership to pay attention to those of us who owned businesses prior to the disaster by giving us the needed support to rebuild our livelihoods. We are not asking for too much. We only want the right things to be done and with some speed.
Everything totally destroyed. Operation. I don't know if it's something if we say measures being reconstruction of because before cars and besides a granite just where awudi Ghana ya no yete obedi baby no ha hwe yi ana hwa kwa wo ana stores ayo kwan no ho na se bi sa da store no so aka hu bi ana na masem bi sa otori bio bambo mi no Joseph kan.
Some of us had shops and kiosks by the side of the road prior to the disaster. We appeal to governments to factor the shops in the reconstruction process and also pay attention to those.
Well, Lands and Natural Resources Minister Samuel Jinapor fell short of giving timelines, but assured the people of a world-class community upon completion.
Let's support government's efforts. I hear some of you asking for timelines for completion of your community. It's a good thing. But if you look around at Piazza and its adjoining communities, the spatial planning is not the best. What government wants to do is to build a model Ghanaian village to become a reference point for future works. So I encourage all of you to participate fully and actively to ensure the realization of this dream.
Now, residents of Kawampe in the Kintampo North municipality of the Bono East region are appealing to government to help improve classroom facilities of the Kawampe MA Basic School after torrential rains ripped off the school's JHS block about 7 years ago. With pupils forced to study in dilapidated structures, the people say the schools currently to intervene. Anas Sabit was in the school and came up with the following report.
In the year 1974, the school, with a population of over 600 pupils, is currently being faced with several challenges. The school, located off the Kintampo-Tamale Highway, lacks classroom facilities after torrential rainfall ripped off the roofing of this classroom structure some 7 years ago. Since then, the pupils are being forced to study under these dilapidated structures that looks like a death trap, with teachers here declining to speak to us on camera for fear of being victimized. We had to resort to some community folks who expressed worry at the school's current situation. Sofo Mustafa is one of the residents who spoke to JoyNews.
We are facing a lot of challenges as a resident of this community, even though we are just close to the roadside. This particular structure you are seeing here, in fact, the roofing has been taken off since 2014. And as we speak now, it still remains like that. The church has no structure of this kind. You can see that any time people are passing by or even cars are passing, it disrupts the children's studies.
Pupils at the KG level in this school will have to either sit on the floor or manage to sit on this improvised wooden place, which provides temporary comfort for them.
The biggest challenge, we have chairs, tables, glass, teachers' books, then board that we write on.
Just take a look at where the desk where the students set to learn. It's not conducive, and this cannot be happening to a community that is even just close to the roadside.
Just like Mustafa, Abnud Chewa, also a resident and an old student of this school, noted that the situation is worrying and will continuously affect teaching and learning in the school.
We are worried for school.
This is my former school. After my return home, there hasn't been any improvements. Both the Form 1s and 2s are still in separate places. And the structure is not even in good shape. The current situation, according to the people, is negatively affecting enrollment and noted that the situation would worsen off during the rainy season.
It has already affected the children's studies. Some of the students don't like going to school. Why? Because the place is not conducive for learning. You wait. This is dry season. When it is rainy season time and you are here, you will see. When a small cloud found, the children are all going home.
They have appealed to authorities to help in the roofing of this abandoned structure to save the school from total collapse.
We are appealing to Kintampo Municipal Assembly and the government in general to come to our aid to help us roof this particular structure so that our children will have a conducive environment for learning.
We are appealing to government and whoever can help to please come to our aid. Reporting for Joy News, Anas Sabit, Kawampi.
And on that note, we wrap on AM News. But the news review is up next. We're going to be joined by Kojopoku, energy expert, or energy analyst, I should say. And we're also going to be having Dr. Bert Bwedikusi, president of the UCC UTAG. Both of them join us for our news review. Do stay. We're going to be interacting with Kojopoku, energy analyst, together with, we're also going to have Dr. Bert Bwedikusi, UTAG president at the UCC. Gentlemen, a very good morning to you. Do we have Dr. Bert Bwedikusi? Please say hello.
Hello.
Okay. Doc, thank you so much for making the time to join us this morning.
Thank you.
Right. So let me start with you, even before we get into the papers, just on that beat. So the latest is that you have retracted, at least you have called off the strike for now, after certain engagements. Give us some details of that, per the statement we've seen. Give us the latest details on that.
Well, let me say that yesterday, the National Executive Committee, which is made up of all the 4 elected executives from the 15 public university campuses, and were engaged in a very crunch meeting, which lasted for quite some time, over 5 hours. We considered all the issues that were on the table, as we had communicated earlier, and then we came to a conclusion that we should suspend the industrial action, move immediately into negotiations. But of course, we are going to address the press this morning, later this morning, to give out all the details, what the considerations were. But the bottom line is that in the interest of our members, the UTAG members, whose welfare we seek, in the interest of our students, whom we so much care about, the plea that has come in from all corteses, from the eminent persons, from the National Security Minister, from the side of government, and other major stakeholders. We believe that this was a point for us to listen and then suspend the strike, and then suspend the industrial action and see what the employer will put on the table. We did not want to continue to be at a stalemate and then be seen as not wanting to progress. And so for us, we think that having factored all these things, we are ready. We now want to see what the employer will put on the table as we move into the negotiation.
So if I hear you clearly, Doc, you're basically saying just for peace to prevail, just for some level of understanding to prevail, you decided to suspend your strike, because obviously you've not got the things you want. Your conditions of service have not changed, but just for the sake of peace and for students to get back to work, you did this. Is that the understanding?
Yes, the point is that we needed to, because you see, in all the issues that we are dealing with, the main point which we are on this industrial action, we were at a stalemate. We were not at the table talking. And that is what we think that will bring what our members need. And that is what I said, that in the interest of the members that we are leading. So, yes, we want to move on, but not just moving on for the sake of moving on. We want to ensure that we get something substantial for our members to be able to cushion them so far as their conditions of service is concerned. And so that is key in the considerations that and of course, we took the view that we could not be at a stalemate forever. And so, and of course, having listened to what the general membership the general public has been saying, what the pleas coming from our students and the major stakeholders, we felt that it was time for us to move on ahead of even all the processes. But let me add that we still have our case in court, the legality or otherwise, which will be determined today, we'll go to court this afternoon. So we felt that there was the need for us to make progress.
And so this is progress. Let me ask you about progress in the sense of what promises have been made to you. I mean, are you progressing in that angle as well? And I ask that specifically from the standpoint of what we've heard Ken Ofori-Atta, the finance minister, state. He has said that there is simply no money, that people like, groups like yours, UTAG, who have embarked on industrial actions. Yes, he can understand that you have genuine reasons to embark on these strikes, but at the same time, there is absolutely nothing left in the kitty. So where does that leave you? I mean, what guarantees have you been given?
Well, the finance minister may have been speaking, but of course, in the context of what UTAG has been asking for, I can say that the government side or the employers have agreed that it, and a possible alternative as to how this is going to be done is what ought to be discussed. So we have taken the assurances from the employer side saying that we are ready to commit to this, we are ready to sit down and negotiate and get solutions to it. And so we want to believe that, yes, in as much as anybody will want to say that there is simply nothing, it does not, take away the fact that they need to admit, as they have admitted, and then find a solution. Of course, from UTAG's point of view, and I think that I have made this point earlier, that in our own wisdom, from as academics, we had even proposed a roadmap for them to follow to be able to restore us. So UTAG has from day one has never said that give us everything at a go. So these are options that as we move into the negotiation, we would want to still play it open and see how clean they will come based on the assurances they themselves have given. And I'm sure all of you have heard them. You have heard the assurances, the promises that have come.
Do you have faith?
Record.
Do you have faith? Do you have faith in those assurances? Do you have faith in those things that have been said?
Well, right from day one, we have had issues with trust. And so if you ask me, I will tell you that any UTAG member would say that they do not trust any of these words. But we had gotten to a point where we needed to move on and begin to build a trust. And so we have done this in good faith. We expect that the employer or the government side will also come to the table in good faith so that we do not have to get to a point where we say that, yes, we said it. We said we could not trust their words. And so now that is what is playing out. We want to believe that they will want to live up to expectations.
Maybe finally, so beyond court today, what is the next step for UTAG in going back? Two things. So in going back to the classroom, and secondly, in following up on these promises that have been made to ensure that there is a proper roadmap.
Yes. So for us as a union, in fact, let me explain that the first thing that we were supposed to have done, in fact, we were supposed to have touched base with our members ahead of the press briefing. Unfortunately, I think someone from our own ranks decided to put it out officially, and so the national executive had to quickly move in and salvage the situation. But all our major campuses will go through, the formal process of informing our members on the processes that we have had to go through, the challenges that we have faced, and how we have had to arrive at this decision, to formally inform our members for them to rectify the decision. And then, of course, we will expect that management of the various universities, now that this communication has come, probably will come up with when lectures will begin or otherwise. And of course, going into these meetings, the round of meetings that are ahead of us, we are resolute. We are going to marshal all our team, all our technical men, to be able to go into this meeting so that at the end of the day, we'll get the best out of this. Because we couldn't have gone on this industrial action for nothing. Of course, even when we started, that admission that what we were demanding was genuine, was not there. Along the line, that position shifted. And so we hope that going into this round of negotiation, the employer or the government side will be able to also live up to its commitment so that we'll find a lasting solution to this, so that UTAG would not have to leave to come back within the next 2 days or 2 weeks or within the shortest possible time, to think of embarking on this kind of industrial action.
Dr. Boedikusi, you are always a breath of fresh air, and we're grateful that you always speak to us when we call upon you. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, my brother.
Right. Let's continue with the papers now, and joining us via Zoom, we have Kojo Poku, my own big brother, Kojo Poku, energy analyst. Kojo, a very good morning to you.
Yeah, very good morning. How are you, my brother?
I am doing very well. How about you?
I'm well. I'm very well. It's a new day. It's a new week. What else can we ask for?
Right. All right, so let's do this. Even before we dig into the papers, a few topical matters that have come up, and I cannot skip them. Fuel prices are way up. I'm sure you've noticed, you've seen it. You go out there, you purchase fuel, 7.9, thereabouts, 8 point something, depending on what you are purchasing. And now we're being told that some 15% is going to be added on in terms of transport fares from Saturday by some of these drivers' unions and all of that. What is your quick take, since this is your focal area? What is your quick take on the fuel price increments, the different assertions about how we can control them, and the ripple effects on transport fares?
Well, the transport fares, as we are all aware, the GPRTU and its members for some time now have been agitating for the increase. I think it's only fair that we give them some increase, because if you look at the rate at which petrol prices have gone from 4 cedis from last year to where it is today, it's only fair that the negotiation takes place and the transport owners and the drivers also get something small. So I think that's in order. It's unfortunate that our salaries and our standard of living is depreciating, because everything is going up and we are not getting any meaningful increase in our wages and salaries. That said, I think the prices, if the dollar situation improves, let me make this very clear. The international prices are coming down a little bit. The only reason that the next window we might not see a reduction is if the Bank of Ghana is able to find dollar for the BDCs and the OMCs. So what is very key in this coming window, and the next window is next week, which is the beginning of March. If we are able to provide dollar at the bank, at the interbank rate to the BDCs and the OMCs, then definitely we will see some reduction in the pumps. But the international prices are coming down a little bit, but we need to get the liquidity for the local companies to be able to pay their debt and also procure more fuel.
Right. So we've been told about a few things, and these are all monetary matters or economy-related matters. I'll run a few of them by you on the back of the e-levy, because we've been told so many things about it. Now, Ken Oforiatta has been speaking at that latest town hall in Wa, and he says out of the 18 million Ghanaians who qualify to pay taxes, I'm sure you're with me, Mr. Kojo Poku, only 2.4 million are paying those taxes. And that has left us in quite a situation. Again, of course, there is the e-levy, and we've been told, I mean, by different people that if we don't get the e-levy, free SHS will go. If we don't get the e-levy, you will not get roads. If you don't get the e-levy, you will not even get proper security. How do you react, since I've not spoken to you on that before? What is your take on the e-levy?
Well, I have always started this e-levy conversation on one basic principle. The government is broke, and I think we all have to admit it.
You say government is broke?
It's broke, yes. If government
what makes you think government is broke?
Why don't you think government is broke? If everything from security to everything that government has to do relies on government getting extra revenue, then that means government doesn't have the money.
But think about it, Kojopoku. Just look at this. So we're looking at a budget in 2022 of 100.5 billion. The e-levy is going to get us
projected revenue.
Right, projected revenue. The e-levy will get us max what we've projected, 6.9 billion. That is just 6.86% of our budget. I mean, is the suggestion then that 6.86% of our budget will cripple us?
No, it's of, see, let me make this math for you. Let's not use the 100 billion, which clearly they know they can't get. Okay? This year, what we all celebrating and popping champagne on is government only getting 57 billion.
Right.
So the realistic target for government revenue is 57 billion. Okay. Let's say that government is able to do better in plugging loopholes. 2022, we can get 60 billion. Okay? Now, with that 60 billion, let's forget about the expenditure of 150 billion, which has been reduced by 20%. Let's forget that.
Right.
The realistic expenditure is that we spend about, from the recent figures that we've gotten, we spend about 30 billion on interest on loans.
Right.
We spend close to another 30 billion on salaries and wages.
Public sector wages, yeah.
Public sector wages. So combine those two, what you get? From before, in 2021, it was 24 for interest on loans and 28 for salaries and wages, which gave you 52 billion.
Right.
With the revised numbers coming in now, with 30 billion on interest and 30 billion on salaries, 60 billion. All your revenue is being taken out by your salaries and your interest on loans.
So practically, we are in fact broke. They have nothing left to do. I mean, we've seen
that government is broke. So when you ask me, how do I know government is broke? That's why government is broke. If government can only get 60 billion, and that 60 billion is taken up by salaries and wages and interest on loans, there's nothing left for anything. So that is why government needs more money. Okay, so that's why I'm starting from that premise that let's all understand that government is broke. And I don't think anybody in this country can argue otherwise. So if we start from that premise that government is broke and doesn't have any money, then how do we now as citizens give Ghana government more money? In the past, and this is way before this generation, in the 10, 15 years back, we've always borrowed and borrowed and borrowed. And some of us have been worried because we think at a point from 2015, 2014 coming, what we needed was austerity. Okay? And I have always said this, that look, from 2014 coming down, government should have started austerity. But the austerity did not happen then. We promised and promised and borrowed and borrowed. Now, those are things you cannot hide. You are broke, you are broke. Borrowing and borrowing and borrowing only kick the can down the line.
So Kojo, that makes it crucial for government then to have an e-levy or an alternative. So quickly then, let's get back to the e-levy. What do you think about it? I mean, their own people, some of government's own people in the past have said that we should go to the IMF or we should use other alternatives. Do you agree?
Well, if you've listened to the IMF representative, he thinks that, look, at the end of the day, whether you go to the IMF or don't go to the IMF, his explanation was that a sick patient, whether you get well at home or you get well in the hospital, you need to get well. Okay? So really and truly, it's through other sort of taxation. The only problem I have is that all tax experts have told us that the e-levy double tax a lot of people, and it's not good. So we need to resolve that, how the e-levy double tax, and maybe look at a different taxing system that does not double tax people.
Do you agree with that line of thought that because it is a double taxation, it is not good. Now, another alternative that has been brought up, and Kanamwa yesterday said that he had seen something suggesting that the finance minister was inching towards taxing petroleum products if the e-levy doesn't go through. So do you agree then that double taxation, so the e-levy is not an option? And what do you think about taxing petroleum, looking at the prices we're already paying?
Well, look, the petroleum prices are high. I'll be very surprised if anybody is going to put any taxes on petroleum when we are now looking at 8 cedis a liter. Okay? I honestly don't think that's going to happen. Look, I'm not the one in government. I think government need to find an innovative way to basically do something. What I have proposed, and when we had a meeting with the finance ministry, what I proposed was that, look, maybe we can pass the e-levy at 1%, but have a sunset clause that the e-levy is only for a certain period of time. Within that time, government should put in place a comprehensive tax, universal tax system, okay? Because Ghanaians don't want to pay the e-levy, but if we have to, government should give us the assurance that, look, it's going to be a stopgap measure. It's not going to be something that's there. And the rate will come to 1% instead of the 1.5% proposed. But I think at 1%, okay, then we can now look at it for maybe 5 years, whilst within that time, government put in place a comprehensive universal tax system.
Okay. It's interesting you put it that way. I mean, because as you mentioned, sunset clauses and all of that, we know that in this country, there have been similar projections in the past. And even when the thing was supposed to end, we went ahead, continued with it. So that is a bit of a worry in there. But maybe just to wrap before we get into the papers very quickly, electricity tariffs are also, projected to go up. There's been the minority, furore in Parliament on the back of that and calling on the PURC to engage more and government as well. What is your take, current electricity tariffs going up?
Well, it's not tariff that's going up, or it's not tariff that has gone up. What they've put up is charges.
Right.
If you want to get a meter, if you want to connect electricity to your house that you are building.
You want to get a pylon or something to pose. Right.
If you want to get certain services from ECG, they've reviewed their tariffs, their charges upwards.
Right.
It's not tariffs. So basically, let's not confuse the two.
Right.
This charges was approved by ECG, was approved by PULC last year, okay? And it took effect this year. I've heard some people say that, look, PLC did not go through the right processes. I think whoever is saying that should engage PLC and let PLC tell them the process that they went through. But we live in this country and we say that we want companies like ECG to be cost effective. They should be able to recover their costs. If they are not making profit, they shouldn't make losses. If we hold that as true, then we should let them charge realistic prices for their services. And if they've gone to PULC, and PULC has reviewed it and think that the realistic prices ECG should charge is these, then we should accept it and move on. Like I said, it's unfortunate that everything is going up, but our standard of living and wages are not going up.
Let's get into the papers now. Daily Graphic, Auditor General surcharges accountant with 943,000 Ghana cedis. That story on page 16. And it tells you about some of the matters that often come up when it comes to the Auditor General's report and how we're bleeding as a country. So the Auditor General has surcharged an accountant at the Ashanti Regional Office of the Plant Protection and Regulatory Services Directorate of the Ministry of Food and Agriculture to refund to the state an amount of 943,000 Ghana cedis. The amount, which was part of internally generated funds earmarked for the operations of the directorate, was allegedly misappropriated by the accountant. We see this time without number, Kojopoku, and year in, year out, we have these huge sums. From the last Auditor General's report, over 12 billion going into this. Yes, a lot of people will tell you there are different dynamics, many things that go into it. But now that we are struggling with something like an e-levy, if we plug some of these holes, obviously, we'd be faring better. What do you think?
Oh, much better. And I think that it is not good to just surcharge people. It should be criminal. And I think that's the only way civil servants will set up. I think it's about time government makes some of these things criminal. When people do what they do and they are just surcharged to refund the money, yes, they should refund the money, but they should also face criminal charges. If it goes down that it's negligence and it just by a mere paperwork mistake or whatever. We need to have a certain level of fear in the civil service and the public sector. In the past, in the olden days, one of the things that families will fear was what is called a banker, which is government debt. Now, every young person wants to go into government and rape the government of its money because it thinks that that's where you go and take money and nobody comes after you. It's nobody's money. It is people's money. We don't have enough to give the government. So the more seriousness we attach to some of these things, the better. We can't be asking Ghanaians to pay more and more and more, which we don't have, okay? Right. But then people sit in responsibility of such a person and he misappropriate almost 1 million Ghana cedis. And it's very, very, very inappropriate. And I think we should make some of these aspects, we should make them criminal.
All right. UTAG fights court order, e-levy better alternative than IMF. That's according to the finance minister. NCC chair takes up ECOWAS appointment, of course, now ambassador to Liberia on behalf of ECOWAS. And polling station nominations, anxiety, tension in MPP. Party assures of calm, extends deadline. Very briefly on this, Kojo, how do you feel about the UTAG situation? And now that they've lifted or they've decided to go back to the classroom. Very briefly on that. And then maybe you can add your thoughts on the entire polling station bits from the MPP, different
I have a very different take on the UTAG thing. And for me, if you listen to the doctor you spoke to or the professor you spoke to earlier, if that's what they were looking for, a roadmap and government attention on some of their needs, why did we waste the kids 4 months of the kids' life? Okay, because, I mean, if all you wanted was a roadmap, I mean, you had about 3 months at home. They didn't, I don't know if they were engaging government, but you see, most of these problems is also to do with the civil servants at these ministries. They always make it look like it's a politician that's supposed to take a decision. It's not. Okay, the chief directors of these ministries, what do? What is wrong with taking meetings with UTAG? To leave it to the point where UTAG feels that nobody is attending to them, so they will back on an industrial strike. It's really not right. We need to have a system in place that is not only the politician that is blamed. We need to start blaming the civil servants as well, because the chief directors in these ministries and its colleagues could have easily taken a meeting with UTAG and report to the appropriate minister and government what needs to be done. Okay. And if all UTAG was asking for was engagement and a roadmap, why did we have to really waste 4 months of the kids, 4 weeks of the kids' education only on just an attention? Right. So look, we thank God it's over. I mean, I hope they don't go and rush through the curriculum. If the kids has to be in school longer and then eat into their summer vacation, let's do that. Right. But let's not go in already. I mean, the quality of education coming out of the tertiary is not great. Right. But let's not go in and rush through the curriculum. Let's extend the time they have to stay in school to make sure that we go through the curriculum properly.
Your take on the tension in MPP polling station elections, briefly, maybe some 30 seconds.
For me, it just tells you that, look, everybody at the grassroots of the MPP is very energetic, very enthusiastic to get going, and it's unfortunate that there are fights here and there. When you have a party at whose grassroots everybody is fighting to be part of it, it's a good thing. But the negative part of it is that there are fights here, people are destructing property, people are destroying properties, and that is the negative side. But overall, for me, I just see it as, look, the grassroots of the party is energized, they want to get battle ready, and everybody wants to be part of this process.
Let's look at the Ghanaian Times newspaper. Revenue mobilization for economic recovery, e-levy better option. That's according to Finance Minister Keno Foriata. There's also man jailed 8 years for defiling girlfriend's companion, and fire destroys stores at Abuabo Market. The final newspaper, Deputy Minority Whip pushes for release of 2.4 billion Ghana cedi common fund arrears. And then Road Safety Authority commends government on plans to dualize Accra-Kumasi Road. There's also rising cost of living is a global crisis. Asia is the only global inflation exception. And just this morning, Kojo, I was listening to someone, report from Kenya about the cost of living there and even the rise in cost of bread and all of that. So reality is kicking in across the world, not just in Ghana. The Daily Guide newspaper, Nigeria's Veep commends UBA Group chairman. MPP presidents fight over delegates. Pictured there, Vice President Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, Alan Tramante, Boache Jako, and Owusu Efriye Akoto. And the graphic business, locals miss out on booming stock market. But let me just go back briefly, and then the final point I'll have you make. The rising cost of living is a global crisis. How much of it would you ascribe to COVID-19, Kojo Poku, and how have you felt it realistically, beyond rising fuel prices and all of that? How have you felt it personally?
Well, there's a lot going on around the country and in the world in terms of moving of stuff.
Right.
Most of the products come from Asia, China, and the market women who are able to go to China and negotiate better prices have not been able to go. They have to do their business online, and then shipping these goods to them, the cost of shipping has also gone up like 2 or 3 fold.
Right.
So all that basically gets down and amount to us paying for a lot more than we would normally will. COVID is to be blamed big time. Post-COVID, most industrial nations are trying to recover. Then we have tensions in the Russian borders with Ukraine. And there's a lot in terms of their guys from OPEC not wanting to basically pump more oil. So there's inflation through and through all over the world. For me, it's really to do with when you do business with people, because the company or the person you're doing business with, their revenue is not going up. They expect you to render the same business at the same cost, but it's not possible. Okay, so I'm rendering consultancy services and logistics services to companies who doesn't want to pay more even for transportation. They don't want to pay more for services. But overall, we realize that everything is going up. And that is where my fear is with the increase in transport fares. When that goes up, everything else will also go up. But unfortunately, it's unavoidable. We just have to live with it. That is why inflation is at all-time high.
Okay, so we just have to live with it. Kojo Poku, thank you so much for your time with us this morning. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, my brother. Have a nice day.
All right, you do. Do have a good one. And today happens to be the birthday of Captain Prince Kofi Amwabeng, retired, formerly of UT Holdings, UT Bank. Today is your 70th birthday. Happy birthday to you, sir. And may God continue to enrich your life and bless you. Captain Prince Kofi Amwabeng, retired. Happy birthday to you. Up next, we have sports with Muftau Nabila Abdullah. He brings you the latest. Stay.
Just how big is the game involving Asante Kotoko and Accra House of Oak in the opinion of Africa's defending CAF Champions League winner Picho Mosumani? Is arguably the biggest game in the continent, and he will pray for an opportunity to watch that game. And he has also called on leadership of the two clubs to ensure that these clubs thrive when they participate in Africa competitions. And also, there's a threat from the Africa Sports Confederations that they want to withdraw from the Africa Games 2023 that will be taking place next year. Well, local organizing committee chairman, Dr. Ofosu Asare, has been speaking, and we'll be sharing details with you shortly. And also, how important was the friendly match for the Black Princesses against Morocco? We hear from their head coach, Baba Nuhu. We have got these and many more here on AM Sports with me, Muftau Nabila Abdullah. But first, let's start with the letter that was sent to the government of Ghana by the Africa Sports Confederations that are threatening to pull out of next year's Africa Games, citing neglect by the organizers of the competition. In a letter that was sent to the government of Ghana and copied to the presidency, it stated that government has not included the 38-year-old body to be part of the Africa Games competition. And local organizing committee chairman, Dr. Ofosu Asare, is saying that they have been engaging with every stakeholder behind the scenes to ensure that next year's event is a success.
Efforts are being made to bring everybody to the table. As LOC members, we want every member, every stakeholder to be part of the games. These games are for Africa. Africans, I should say. And these games are owned by the African Union. So when there's a problem at that level, it's very simple. An agreement was signed for the Moroccan games, and those who signed the agreement, we were not party to the agreement. The three parties who signed the agreement, there are a bit of misunderstanding, and I have always argued that every contract you sign, there are articles like how to resolve disputes and how to terminate the contract. So if you have a challenge, you have to invoke these articles and get them rectified. Nonetheless, we on our part believe that these issues are issues that can be resolved. We've made the president, at the highest level, efforts are being made to get those issues resolved. So I have every belief that these issues will be resolved as quickly as possible, and it will not threaten the games. Let's be very clear. Athletes must be placed at the center of the games. The games are for athletes. The games are not for individuals. So whatever we're doing, we have to place the athletes at the center of it. These games, don't forget, are to promote peace in Africa. These games are to bring about unity in Africa. These games are to provide platforms for the youth to showcase their talents, to build their careers. These games are meant for Africa. So we must think like Africans, and we must bury our parochial interests and work together as Africans. This is what we have as Africans. The African Games are for all of us. So if there are any misunderstandings, I think that we should look at it as Africans and resolve the differences. And this is possible. I mean, it is not impossible for these things. It's good that they've come out at these early stages so that we can get them resolved. And I have every belief we'll get them resolved. So rest assured, it is up to us also, the way we portray what is happening. You know, I just read an article, one was saying, oh, yeah, are we in a limbo or what? I mean, we're not in a limbo, we are on course.
Ghana is on course. Will Anoka participate? That is a question as we await the resolution that will be happening behind the scenes to have everyone participate. It's a 25 sporting discipline competition. 53 countries will join Ghana, making it 54 for the event that starts next year. And government is hoping that everyone participates in that. Let's talk about Ghana's under-20 team. They have been camping for the last 3 weeks. They won the Waffle Championship last year, as well as the Africa under-20 competition in Mauritania in March last year as well. They've been preparing under the tutelage of head coach Abdul Karim Zito, and he's been speaking about the impact of the ongoing competitions in Ghana that have helped him to put together a very good team. From under-20, let's do under-17 now. They are also camping in Pram under the guidance of Pakwesi Fabian, the man who led Ghana to participate in the last under-17 World Cup in India, and that was in 2017. He has been speaking about the importance of playing so many matches with the boys that will help him get the best team.
All the selected players from Samaboy, from KGL, and then selected players from other regions. So far, campaign has been good. Everything is moving on quite well. Some players have left and others have come in, and we are still looking. We're still pruning down until we get the final squad in due course. Yeah, preparation has been ongoing. As I said, we've been training morning and afternoon. We've already played about 4 or 5 matches. And this is the 6th one. We're going to play a lot of matches outside Accra, outside our camp, to be able to prepare the boys very well for the tournament that we are going to go through. So, like I said, preparation has been good, and it's all, everything has been provided, and we are working very hard to be able to raise a very formidable team for.
Let's talk about the Black Princesses now. They are Ghana's under-20 female team. Just recently, they played a friendly match against Morocco, where they walloped their Moroccan counterparts by 3-0. And head coach of the team, Baba Nuhu, says that the friendly match against the Moroccans serves an opportunity for most of the players to participate in a game of that nature. And he believes that it sets the tone for him to build a very formidable team. Now let's talk about Asante Kotoko and Accra Hearts of Oak. These two teams dominated Africa football in yesteryears, but unfortunately, in recent times, they've been at the peripherals of the continent's most prized competitions. Well, head coach of Al Ahly, Peter Mosumani, says that efforts must be made to ensure that these clubs thrive when it comes to Africa's major competitions.
Surprises me. Where is the Porcupine Warriors? Where are they, guys? They used to everybody. Where's Phobia? Where are those teams, guys? You know the derby of the Phobias and the Porcupine Warriors. You know the derby. The streets are closed. Where are those teams in the Champions League, guys? I mean, really? Are we serious? Where's the top talent? What's happening? You must tell me what's happening. But you need to have an organized league. You need to have TV on the league. You need to have fixtures right. But you need also to improve the stadia also. The stadia, I know it's not easy because it's the economy of the country or whatever. But proper, smaller, decent stadiums and look after the pitches. And also let's pay the players a little bit. Let's make sure that there's an interest. Players have to play have to be willing to play. And let's create the vibe. Let's bring it back. And we will come back in the Champions League. And by the way, you've got a lot of guys in Ghana who've got a lot of money. Put money on the game. Bring good players to Ghana. Take them from other countries. Develop your own, because you had so much academies. Let the referees be good. I've seen some of the one video which was not right about the referee who was manhandled in the country. I mean, I think you've seen that. Yeah, that's not nice. You don't need that. That doesn't give credit to television and your sponsors and all that, you know. And improve the game. I would love to come to Ghana to watch that derby, but next time, inshallah, next time I'll get an opportunity to watch the derby because I know what that derby means. I saw the legend is back playing for Hearts of Oak.
Yeah.
I mean, guys, what a midfielder! What a midfielder, guys! What a midfielder! I mean, a pleasure to watch Montari play, guys.
On that note, we wrap up AM Sports here with me, Muftar Abdullah. You can head on to my joyonline.com and read some more sports stories. We appreciate your company, as always.
Thank you for staying with us on the AM show. Now today, of course, like we've told you, we have our big stories coming your way. And joining us in a bit, we have former Deputy Information Minister Felix Kwatiofosu. He'll be sharing his thoughts with us on myriad matters, but specifically, we're going to be focusing on the second term of the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo administration and what that has meant for us as a people, economically speaking and across the board. He'll be joining us shortly as we have that all-important conversation. But we also hinted that we were going to look at the MPP's polling station debacles, some of them across the country. In the Ashanti region, we know of Kumasi and the unsightly incidents that have happened there. Let's take a look at this.
The opening of nomination for polling station elections has been characterized by confusion and in some instances chaos, as aspirants accuse some party executives for hoarding nomination forms. Menchia North, Kwadaso, Asante Mampong and Kumawu are some of the constituencies hit with widespread confusion. But in an interview, Ashanti Regional Chairman of the MPP, Bernard Mpibua-Siako, said challenges associated with the ongoing exercise are being addressed. According to him, additional nomination forms have been received from the national headquarters for onward distribution to the various constituency election committees. This An extension of date for the polling station elections to February 25, 2022 will help address concerns.
I have received a lot of petitions from some of the constituencies and concerns. Like we don't get forms, we are looking for forms and stuff. So we call to the election committee people, and then they also told us, some of them said the forms that we give it to them wasn't enough. I called to National for General Secretary also to bring me some forms. The Regional Secretary, Lawyer Kwame Adumapia, at the moment, he has given a communique to all the election committee in the constituency election committee, to come to the region, to come and pick the form. So we have instructed that the Ashanti region, our polling station elections will start from 25th, so that even if we can't solve all the problem, we can solve the majority of the problem.
Meanwhile, Mr. Bernard Entwibu-Asiakon has appealed to members of the constituency election committees to give level playing field to all aspirants, as he assures of a free and fair process.
It started from about 500, 600 to 800 people in the polling station. And the NEC and the National Council give me only 25 per polling station. So what is available for me as the party, once there is no law, there's no sin. So the law that the NEC and the National Council has given to me is 25. So I'm going to make it available for them to have this 25, for them to compete there. That is why I say we will try to make it fair as much as possible for them to have it. But we are still talking to the election committee executives in various constituencies for them to make it fair for everybody to go.
From Kumasi, for JoyNews, Oyemiteria reporting.
The NPP says it is, stretching the closure of nominations. It has dispatched a team of officials to affected constituencies on a fact-finding mission and warned that party functionaries who are found to have played any role in hoarding the forms will be sanctioned. Freddie Blair is national chairman of the party.
The party has been monitoring the process keenly since it started. Notwithstanding all the adequate preparations to ensure a smooth process in these elections, there have been reports of pockets of incidents happening in some of the constituencies. A few are Kede constituency, Menchia North, Bosmasi, Bosone from There are also video disturbances being circulated on social media platforms as a result of purported instances where party people have been denied access to buying of the polling station application forms. The party wishes to emphasize that it has made available adequate nomination forms for the polling stations electoral area election committees, which are mandated committees for the conduct of the polling station electoral areas elections in the 38,622 polling stations across the country. Ladies and gentlemen of the media, on this note, the National Party has decided to extend the sale of the polling station application form by 1 day. That is tomorrow, Tuesday, February 22nd, 2022. The national leadership of the party is per this press conference directing all polling stations, electoral area, electoral committees to make available the application forms to all eligible party members who wish to partake in the polling station elections. It is also assuring all eligible members that the party will take steps to ensure that application forms are made available to them. With immediate effect, the party is also dispatching officers to reported areas of disturbances for fact-finding and investigations, and where necessary, disciplinary sanctions will be applied.
So that is the state of affairs when it comes to the polling station and electoral area elections of the New Patriotic Party. You would recall that right here we had interactions with Evans Nimako, who is Director of Research and Elections at the NPP. And he spoke on some of these matters, saying that no one would be denied the opportunity to actually contest or pick nomination forms. So we've seen pockets of these incidents, New Dwaben South, New Dwaben North, in the Kumasi area as well. We've seen it in Kwadasu, we've seen it in Kede in the eastern region. We've seen it in Ningo Pram Pram. And some of the scenes have not been too pleasant. So today we're going to give you a bird's eye view of what exactly has been happening across these polling station elections or nomination forms being picked. And like I indicated earlier, the party has decided to extend the deadline so that those who are affected can actually pick up the forms. You just heard from National Chairman Freddie Blay. You had also heard initially from Chairman Wuntumi, the Chairman Intribwesiako of the NPP in the Ashanti region. But we've been asking the question about why people are so keen on picking up these nomination forms. You would realize that it percolates up towards the National Delegates Congress. And so those from the polling station and electoral areas, of course, will feed into the constituency level. And some of them just might be in pole positions when it comes to the constituency elections. That feeds into the regional. And from the regional, then we would go to the national, where national executives of the party, from chairman to all the other positions, will be elected, following from which we will have the party's Congress proper, where the presidential aspirants will face off, and the one who comes up tops will then represent the New Patriotic Party in election 2024. So we are going to then proceed from here. We've laid the bed for this conversation, and we're now going to interact with some of our guests on this all-important matter. Evans Nimako is NPP Director of Elections and Research. Mr. Nimako, good to have you join us on the AM show. Good morning, sir.
Good morning.
It's a pleasure having you. So we interacted on Sunday, and here we are again. You did mention to me on Sunday that no party member who genuinely wanted to pick up forms would be prevented from doing so. Looking at...
Please come again.
Can you hear me now?
Hello?
Evans Nimako, can you hear me?
Yes, please.
Okay, good. I'm saying that on Sunday I interacted with you, and you indicated that no party member who genuinely wanted to pick up nomination forms would be denied the opportunity. Yesterday we heard from Freddie Blay, the national chairman. Do you feel that caps off this entire enterprise? The extension you have given, do you feel it will be enough for all these people to pick up nomination forms?
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. What I will say is that we as a party, tasked the elections committee to ensure that prospective aspirants are not denied. And this has been stated clearly in the rules and regulations that have been given out. Yes, we are human institutions, and so having heard of some of these few incidents, the National Chairman, Mr. Freddie Blay, has directed that an extension of a day be given. And we say this because the issues are really not widespread. But it's just that we've given too much of attention to these areas, and that's why it appears to have been escalated. We are conducting this whole process in almost 38,622 polling stations. And so some of these few cases are expected, but as you've indicated and reiterated over time, we want the committee to ensure that people who are eligible are not denied access to procure forms to enable them to participate in this all-important election. Mind you, the polling station is the basic unit and foundation of the party, and it is our expectation that at the end of this exercise, which began last Saturday and will end on 5th of March 2022, will be very successful to give us the platform to take off. And so we are insisting that all well-meaning party members will respect and comply with the directives given, the rules and regulations given, as well as the party's constitution. Members should be mindful of the details of our constitution and not to do anything untoward. And so that was the essence of the meeting and press conference held yesterday, delivered by the national chairman, and also sending to the regions or places that we've heard of these challenges, national officers to go and really have a first-hand information, access to development so far. As we speak, our General Secretary is in Ashanti region, is been to Bono region, is on his way to Northern region to ensure that what the directives given by the National Council are complied to the latter.
Right. Are you surprised at the number of people who have turned up to pick up nomination forms? They've turned up in quite a massive numbers. We've seen them in Ningo Pram, in Kede, in other areas. Are you surprised at the number of people who want to be polling station executives or representatives?
I am not, because I've always believed and that the party rank and file are ever ready to serve and prepare under whatever circumstance to defend the interests of the party. That is why you see this kind of enthusiasm from the rank and file to be given the opportunity to serve, even at the lowest rank, as polling station officers. And the directive is that the committee must ensure free and fair conduct of the process. And so we are urging the committee that has the mandate of National Council, the second highest decision-making body of the party, to discharge this honorable duty to the party excellently, without hitches. And so I'm saying, this is that we've had these misunderstandings. Party leadership is delving into it, and we know that appropriate solution will be found to address whatever we have at hand. Right. What we are asking party committee put in place to do is to ensure that nobody is denied access to the form.
Right.
And this is non-negotiable.
Do you also feel that it points to the democratic flavor or credentials of the MPP that so many people are popping up to pick up forms?
I mean, New Patriotic Party has always thrived on competition. Our former president, Mr. Akufo, in all his elections, went through competition. He was never imposed. Our president, Nana Danko Akufo-Addo, has been through elections. Our general secretary, as we speak, when nomination is open, as we are aware, people are canvassing. And so we thrive on internal elections and democracy. We don't impose people. And so I'm not surprised that the masses have shown interest to participate in this all-important polling station election. All that we are urging on is that people and members should have in mind that at the end of this internal election, we are putting ourselves together to build a team, organize the party in a manner that will give force to the MPP government to drive us into election 2024, give us victory, and then continue with the good governance that is being done under another government.
Right. And looking at all of these developments, though, I mean, the pockets of incidents that we have seen, how worried are you about them? In one instance, in the Kede constituency, we are told that a gun was pulled out by a supporter of a member of parliament. In Ningo Prampram, we saw the scenes, getting pretty tense in Kwadaso, in the Ashanti region, and other pockets of the country. How do you react to those developments and moving on, even as it gets even more, of a keen contest? You move from the polling station and electoral areas to the constituency, the region, and all of that. How are you going to prevent such incidents moving on? So 2 things, your quick reaction to the scenes, ugly scenes we have seen, and how you're going to remedy them moving forward into even bigger contests.
Well, thank you. I would have wished that we didn't experience these unfortunate situations. And so that's why I'm appealing for full health to prevail. I'm also appealing that we comply strictly by the rules of the game. I think from today onwards, you won't experience any of these misunderstandings because leadership has taken notice of these challenges and appropriate solutions have been prescribed. And it is hoped that people will go by the directives given and work towards party interest.
We've been told that anyone found culpable by Freddie Blay, the national chairman, but that anyone found to have hoarded nomination forms and the rest would be dealt with, so to speak, would face the full rigors of the party's laws. But we've had very powerful people in your party, Chairman Wuntumi, for example, the chairman of your party in the Ashanti region, and others pointed at for deliberately, hoarding some of these forms and all of that. Are these people, if found culpable, also going to face the music?
I wouldn't want us to delve into allegations because we will not be able to have evidence as a team to support what we are saying. What is important is that the committee has been mandated and they must go strictly by the mandate and ensure that all eligible prospective candidates are given access to enable them to participate in the election.
Right, Evans, I know we're not going to have you for all the time. So maybe just to wrap with you, we've also had the instance of some would-be flag bearer hopefuls, paying for the nomination forms of some of these polling agents and all of that across the country. Some have said that it is a way of putting themselves forward to these ones who eventually will be delegates across the spectrum. How do you feel about that? Is that not influence peddling? I mean, Alan Tremartin's own has come out. We've heard of other people who have done same, under the radar and all of that. Is that not influence peddling?
We've not opened nomination for presidential primary.
I am aware of that, Evans, but I'm saying that starting from the grassroots, is that not a way of...
I would rather, as indicated by the national chairman, well-meaning party members who have the capacity to offer financial support to the party must do so through appropriate officers. He's saying that the national secretariat is available. If you have support to the party, let it come through to ensure fairness, to ensure transparency and accountability. I mean, the forms were never sold at the headquarters nor at the regional secretariat. The forms are all being handled by the committee. The forms were given to the committees by the national secretariat. And so the appeal to well-meaning party leaders or members who have what it takes to support are welcome, but it must come through the party's structures, i.e. the national secretariat, so that proper accounting systems will be put in place to ensure fairness as it's indicated. So yes, I've heard that that quantum has been made, but it never came to my attention. And so I'm unable to speak to it. But the appeal is that people who have what it takes to support the party financially must do so through the headquarters.
Right. Again, I know I said I would wrap, but I cannot. I would be remiss to let go of you without mentioning this.
No, I'm ready for you. So
right.
let's have the conversation.
Since this borders on electoral matters and then the fortunes of your party in Parliament, there's been this poll conducted on the Member of Parliament for Dome Kwabenya, which cites the fact that she may not be courting the sort of favor she would ordinarily have enjoyed on the back of her absence, persistent absence from Parliament, and that she's falling, out of favor. What is your quick take on that development, as it bodes on elections as well, the electoral fortunes of your party and the passing of...
Are you talking about the research by Global
Info Analytics? Yes.
I think my quick reaction to it is a survey that is biased.
It is biased?
Yes, that the foundation is very weak, that the manner with which the research was conducted raises too many questions.
Right.
And really, the researchers themselves, their first time of conducting such a survey, and I'm saying this because they took sample size from 34 constituencies across Ghana. 34 constituencies, and sampled about 2,422 population. And if you look at the 34 constituencies, 19 of those constituencies, New Petroleum Party lost. And they are saying that they did random sampling. And I'm saying no, because you don't go into NDC stronghold and come back to say that you were able to capture more MPP respondents than the NDC members.
But to focus on Dome Kwabenya, which is where I'm throwing the light. In the Dome Kwabenya area, all the 10 electoral areas were covered, and the poll interviewed a total of 587 voters in all 10 electoral areas of the constituency. I mean, how do you react to that? In Dome Kwabenya, they covered all the electoral areas.
This is not the first time. I'm saying that the first time they came out, they did a survey in 34 constituencies across Ghana.
Right.
And the 34, 19 of them, the New Petroleum Party lost.
Okay.
And they are saying that in those 34 constituencies, they captured more MPP respondents than NDC. How can you go to NDC stronghold and speak to more MPP members than NDC? That's the basis. And I'm saying that I don't want to say it's a bogus research that they published.
I mean, if it is bogus, you can say it. I mean, if that is how you genuinely feel.
There's no credibility. I mean, I've read research reports. We've conducted internal research. We've done research by ourselves. It's not. They are not. I'm saying that this is the first time they are conducting polls that they will populate to represent a national field. And if you look at their methodology, I'm saying it was weak. They said they did random sampling. I'm saying it's purposive, because you don't move into strong areas of NDC and come back to tell us, and you want us to accept it, that you were able to speak to more MPP respondents than NDC. And on that basis, whatever they've done in Dome Kwabenya is weak and cannot be accepted by the New Petroleum Party. Whatever advice they have, they can take it to the NDC. I mean, if you want to conduct an objective and credible research, that is not the way to go. In the first place, that research they did, who commissioned them? And if you seek to advise the New Petroleum Party, we've not commissioned you, and you publish results that your sample methodology is wrong in the first place, you want people to take it? No.
Just to clear the air, though.
Wasn't credible.
Right. Just to clear the air, though, your own Member of Parliament for Asin Central, Kennedy Ejapong, has also called out Adwoa Safo. How do you react to that? On the back of saying, if you don't agree with the poll, at least some of your own members of Parliament are calling her out. How do you feel about that?
People people may have their view, but I believe in processes. I believe in the procedure.
Okay.
What is the law saying about an absentee MP? What does the standing orders of the parliament say about an absentee MP? What is the constituency saying about recalling MP? It doesn't lie in one person's mouth. It lies in the mouth of the masses of the people who voted the MP into parliament.
Right.
And so we need to go through the processes. You may be angry, but that is not the solution. The solution is the dictate of the law. And the New Patriotic Party is a law-abiding party.
Right.
I am. And so I will not jump into his hasty conclusion. But I'm saying that the research that has been published by the Global Info is baseless, it's not objective, there's no credibility to it.
Okay. Evans Nabako, thank you so much for your time with us, for engaging us. All right. We also have Dr. Asa Asante, who joins us via Zoom. Doc, thank you for your patience. Thank you for staying with us this morning as we discourse on these very pertinent matters on the show. Thank you for joining us, Doc.
To you, Ben.
Great. And Dr. Kwame Asa Asante is Dean of the Institute of Local Studies. Thank you once more. What is your quick take on these latest developments, the sort of, mass movement for nomination forms, for polling agent forms and electoral areas as well, of the NPP, and the sort of fisticuffs and fighting and struggling and people getting their clothes torn in Ningo Prampram and other places, people pulling out guns and all of that. How does that, what is your take on that?
Yeah, Ben, thanks so much. But a quick correction. I'm not a dean of local government. My center is Director Center for European Studies.
Thank you for the correction.
No problem. I'm cool with that. Ben, come straight to it. It's unfortunate that we are seeing such an ugly spectacle in the political system, especially within the MPP. Very, very unfortunate. One would have thought that there's a very simple process that they will be able to handle it more nicely, more tidy and all that. But events have taken a different turn. And now we are getting something that you and I don't want to see or know. Very unfortunate. But I'm not sure that's the wish of the holders of political power within that party. It's just that something has gone amiss. When you look at this, then it tells you, one, that there is an urgent, let me put it this way, there is a kind of, attractiveness on the part of the people who want to really grab forms and then contest for election. There's something within the party which really they are interested in and they want to work at it. And that is why you are seeing all that you are seeing. Two, it is also a political strategy that is you are seeing, because remember that after this, there will be other elections, constituency, regional, and all that. And those who are successful in this can also be part of the strategy for their candidate to win positions and at the end of the day, lead the party. So that's why you are seeing the jostling and all that. More importantly, you are also seeing a situation where people are doing this in a way to, as it were, maybe change the status quo. That, yeah, we have some people who are leading the party. We are not happy. Let me get it in, get a whole set of people in so that we can change the face of the party for better results. So it's a whole gamut of factors that we are looking at here. But the management is where we have a problem, and that is what we are worried about. But another thing also is that You see people, hoarding the forms, as we have read in the news. You see people making it difficult for others to have access to the forms. This is not a new story. You realize that if you follow MPP elections, and not only MPP and some other parties,
right.
Once a while, these problems comes up. And my worry is that parties have not taken the trouble to nip it in the bud. It's very unfortunate because some of these things create disincentive, a disincentiveness for people to follow the party. There are people who want to work genuinely for the party. Some of these things serve as, something that is untoward, and it affects the party from other levels. There are some also who feel that, yeah, we have come of age, and this is a sorry story. We don't want to know or hear this, but we are having this. But all boils to the fact that then there is a problem with the institutions within the party. And in political science, as I've already said many times, that when we say institution, we are talking about procedures, processes, norms, values, and all that. There's something wrong with some of these things. So I believe that the leaders will reflect on these things and work at it, because this is the very base. Once you get it wrong, it's going to poison the political atmosphere within the party. And if you don't take care, it can have a boomerang effect on the whole electoral processes in the party.
And talking about poisoning the atmosphere, if you listen to the rhetoric, what some of them said about the fact that they felt they were intentionally being sidelined, about the fact that they felt some hands, unseen hands, were manipulating things from here and there. It was almost as though there were puppets and a puppeteer, pulling strings here and there. But how problematic is it that not just with the NPP, but this time it is the NPP, we see these incidents? Because right from the grassroots, and this is the most small, the most minuscule level, polling stations, electoral areas, before you get to the constituency level, before you get to the regional level, and then the national level. Now, if this is happening at that smallest unit, at the branch level, what does this really mean?
Yeah, what it means is that people want to have their leaders put into office at the end of the day, because let us remember that at the end of all these processes, from constituency, from polling station to constituency to regional and all that, at the end of the day, we want the party members want to get some people who will represent them at all these levels, so that at the end of the day, they get their candidate through to parliament or to lead the party. That is all there is to it. So it's a political strategy, but except that it's not handled very well. So there are people behind this who think carefully. I'm not talking about the violence that we are seeing. They are not. That's not what I'm talking about. It's an aberration. But there are people who are working at it, looking at it, and look, let us make sure that we win this place, we win the other place, so that from one level to another, you have your reps throughout, so that they can carry the exercise to its logical conclusion and you get what you want. Let us remember that when you have people in all these places for you, it strengthens your authority within the party, and it gives you the necessary support that you need in order to pursue any agenda that you want. So it's a whole mix factors that we are seeing here, but the management is what we are worried about.
And of course, polling agents are crucial to the fortunes of any party in any election, whether parliamentary or presidential, because if they sway a certain way, or if they are not opposed to do what they have to, it could be inimical to the fortunes of the party. But how do you react to the fact that there have been so many accusations of leadership of the party in different regions being complicit in terms of hoarding forms? The Ashanti regional chairman of the NPP has been pointed to. Others have been pointed to as well, almost as those who say even members of parliament have been, cited as being complicit in this matter. How does that, create problems for the NPP moving forward? Because again, this is just the start of the process. There are others to follow.
You see, the main problem associated with this is that if you don't manage this thing well, you are going to create, bitterness, rancor, bickering within the party. Because when some people feel that there is a cautious effort to prevent them from getting the forms and from standing and contesting for the election, then whole atmosphere is poisoned. People will not trust the electoral process, and you create the environment that you need to create. We lose that. So it is important that the party looks at it carefully if they really want to break the eight, because once you go on this tangent and people get ruffled by this, at the end of the day, you are likely to have independent candidates born out of this process. Those who will not be able to go through the process, and they realize that it was a deliberate effort by those who were supplying the forms and all that. Then they will go for as independent candidate. That affects the party's fortunes. There are some who will say that, well, if you don't allow me to contest or have the forms, as it were, then I'm also going to work to undermine the system, so that at the end of the day, all of us will lose and all that. So it is a murky situation, but I believe if the party want to deal with it, they must respect the institutions that they have created, the processes, the procedures. And it goes with sanctions. Anybody found culpable, you should be able to apply the whip. You don't have to favor anybody. You crack the whip and you discipline the person, so that at the end of the day, you don't encourage others to do that. When impunity sets in, then people believe that, look, it's free for all fights, and that doesn't bode well for a meaningful democracy, as we see in the MPP.
Well, you took the wind out of my sail there when you started talking about breaking the eight, because I was going to ask you about what impact really you felt you felt this could have on the MPP moving forward. But in terms of cracking the whip, we've heard from the national chairman, Freddie Blay, who has said that anyone found to have been involved in the hoarding of forms and other matters that have put the party in a negative light will be dealt with. But from where you sit, looking at the fact that in these parties we have juggernauts, untouchables, so to speak, the likes of Chairman Woontubi, I mean, who doesn't know what clout he has? Yes, he's not at his most popular from the last election in terms of the Ashanti regional head, but he still is a huge figure in the NPP. If he, for example, was found to be complicit, do you think the NPP, as it stands now, wanting to get re-elected in 2024, would be able to crack the whip, like you say?
You see, democracy, if you really want to succeed and you're applying sanctions, you don't have to look at faces. You do it according to the dictates of the rules of the game. It will be difficult for them to crack the whip if you have such big fishes who are found culpable. It will be difficult for them, let's face it, because if you don't take care, you are going to incur the wrath of others within the whole party. So at the end of the day, if care is not taken, it's going to end up as a mere rhetoric that they will sanction, but virtually those who are the big fishes, when they commit such offenses, the party will not have the courage to deal with the situation as it's supposed to be. But you see, all these things go a long way to undermine the very institutions you set for yourself. And then you create opportunity for people to foment trouble, create an enabling environment for the party to exist. The party has done its bit, and that is why it is attractive today. So I believe that, yes, as much as they want their followers or their supporters to get to where they want them to get to, they must be careful about the institutions that have brought them this far. If you work against them, I'm afraid, when you get to the highest level, say constituency election or election of the flag bearer, you are going to have crisis on your hands. And that you give opportunity for your opponent to look at that, campaign against you and all that. All these things that are going on, political communication strategies are taking note of this and then building messages on all these things. For you to win any meaningful election, you need a strategy. And the strategy, once you get the basics wrong, it feeds into those who develop messages. You, apart from strategy, you need relevant messages that resonate with people. And these are some of the things that if you get yourself embroiled in, you lose focus on looking at the right message that will really hit people for them to give you the vote. And above all, you need resources.
Right.
People who have resources and they are affected negatively in this will not be able to lend their support to the party and all that. So I believe that the party leadership should take a critical look at this and then handle it the way that it ought to be dealt with, so that at the end of the day, the party will remain strong and then fight for the next election.
Dr. Asah-Asante, my final bit to you. I ran this by Evans Demako, Director of Research and Elections with the MPP. He had his take. But for you, noting the fact that the likes of Alan Chemating and Dr. Baumia, so Minister and then Vice President, who are said to be key contenders when it comes to the flag bearership slot of the party, who are said to be in pole position. They are purchasing these forms for, for the polling agents and all of that. They are coughing up the sums and, footing the bill. Do you feel that is influence peddling? And do you feel it is right for the MPP to be accepting that?
I believe that these things must be governed by rules and regulations. And it feeds into all manner of problems. So if you really have any resources, there must be a proper channel through which you can pass these things through to the party to support the party, as it were. Once we are not getting that, then you mean there is a missing link with regard to what institutions that regulate the conduct of people in this direction. This can generate a lot of problems, and it can, affect the credibility of the party. So I believe that the party should look at this and deal with it in no time, because this is not the first election. You are going to constituency, you are going to regional and all that. If care is not taken and this thing gets replicated to the other levels, you are going to have a lot of problems that you spend a lot of time to deal with it, whilst at that time you could use it for other meaningful exercises. So they need to handle this thing very well if they really want to up their game, and then make sure that people respect the rules. But some of this problem has come about as a result of the fact that there's some leadership have also, through certain statements and certain actions, have undermined the very institutions they've set for themselves. And that is what is playing out. They need to take this thing seriously if they really want to break the eight, because it's not difficult. It's not easy to break the eight. There are a lot of work you need to do. You need to work to support the party so that the party can leave a legacy that whoever emerges as a flag bearer will stand on it to compete for elections. You need to also maintain your fold within the party, so that all the time you have numbers that support you. And then above all, you need to be strategic and put your resources at where it's supposed to be, so that you don't waste unnecessary time dealing with something that you don't need at all.
Right.
I am sure they have taken political notice of what I'm saying, and it will help them.
Well, hopefully I get it right this time. So the head of the Center for European Studies at the University of Ghana, a political scientist as well, Dr. Kwame Asah-Asante. Hope I got it correct this time.
Perfect. I give you 10 over 10. I'm grateful.
Thank you, sir, for your time. Thank you for joining the conversation. Now, coming up next, our next big story. You don't want to miss it. Former Deputy Minister of Information, Felix Kwatiofosu, joins us right here in the studio. And he's going to be talking about the NPP's or the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo government's second term, the many matters that have happened, and of course, we're going to be talking about this polling station situation. That's up next on the AM Show. Do stay. All right, so it's the moment we've been waiting for as we get into that all-important conversation concerning the current state of affairs. And we all know that sometime in March, as has been put out there, we're going to hear about the state of the nation, the president delivering that. But let's get into the studio and find out what a former deputy Minister of Information, Felix Kwachiofosu, thinks about the state of the nation currently. Felix, a very good morning to you. Thank you for joining the conversation. Right. So we're going to have enough time to talk about the economy, the e-levy, and all of that. But let's just start, segue neatly from the last bit we were talking about, which has to do with the NPP's elections right at the grassroots and the picking of nomination forms for polling stations. From where you sit, of course, you are on the other side of the political spectrum. What picture does this paint? The sort of scenes we've seen, the fighting, the supposed hoarding of forms, the national chairman stepping in. What does that reveal to you?
Well, it paints a picture of a party in total disarray.
A party in total disarray?
Absolutely. Look, hiccups and hitches are not unusual in a grand activity like that. You are talking about tens of thousands of polling station executives who are to be elected. So it is not unusual that you have one or two instances of difficulties or hitches. But what we saw yesterday was a manifestation of a party that is very poorly managed. It is a very mundane, routine, regular activity, selling forms to prospective polling station aspirants. It's been done over and over and over and over again. It is the most basic activity that takes place within the electoral cycle of every party. And so I am quite frankly surprised that in this day and age, we should witness the chaotic scenes that we witnessed yesterday and the day before. Now, there have been instances where people have actually pulled guns and threatened to shoot others because they...
You're speaking of Kede in the eastern region.
Kede, yes. I've seen videos from Mampong. I've seen videos from Asante Achem. I've seen videos from elsewhere. And it depends of it.
Where people used weapons in all these places?
Yes, there's in the Kede instance, someone could be seen brandishing a gun.
Right.
And others were daring him to fire upon them. I saw the MP for Menchia North, I think, being hooted at because he was accused of having hoarded some nomination forms. So it speaks about a party that clearly is in disarray, that is very badly managed, and does not appear to have learned lessons from the huge losses that they incurred, at least in the parliamentary elections in the 2020 polls. And it, for me, sums up what we are going through as a country. It does not appear that the MPP is taking the business of running the country seriously enough, so that it has extended to their party. Their national chairman was compelled to come out yesterday to issue some directives.
Was that not the right thing to do as someone in charge of the party, the leader of the party?
But it would not have been necessary if the important things were done. It is not that some elements outside of the party have stepped in to influence the process. These are key figures of the MPP who apparently appear to have a vested interest in who gets elected as a police station executive, I beg your pardon, who have decided that they will hijack the process and rig it in their favor. And that is what has resulted in the melee that you have highlighted. So there's an inherent desire by people in the party to cheat their way to some positions. And that is what is resulting in this backlash. But I think that it paints a picture of a party that is on its way to opposition. They don't appear willing to do the things that are necessary to build a strong party. You see the same level of confusion even within their parliamentary ranks. Now we are grappling with a situation where even members of the MPP parliamentary wing have accused their colleagues of deliberately sabotaging government, not interested in helping government pass its own flagship tax policy.
Right.
So all is not well for the MPP. And if I was a supporter of the party, I'll be deeply, deeply worried.
We'll get there. But at the polling level and the sort of things that you say, that this depicts, and not to quote you, but suggestively that the party is in shambles, it's in disarray and all of that. These are not, you started by saying that these scenes are not unique to the NPP. We've seen them at your end as well.
But we've never seen...
Just to make the point, we've seen them in the NDC as well, even at the grassroots levels. And your own party members have complained about how that could impact the fortunes of your party. And in the past, we've seen exactly that play out. The other point to note is that there are so many thousands, over 30,000, 38,000 if I hear, of these polling stations across the country. If you even have these in, let's say, 20, of all those we've heard, 10, 15, 20, Does that create a general situation of, panic or chaos in the NPP? I mean, if you look at the statistic, out of close to 40,000, if you're seeing such scenes in 20 polling stations, how do you go off saying that means the party is in total disarray?
Well, I started off by saying that a little hitch or hiccup in a major activity like that is not unusual. So it is a concession that even in the NDC, you have instances where there's genuine confusion about the process because of something that was not put in place, which should actually have been put in place to facilitate the process. But what we are seeing in the MPP, as far as this is concerned, is not genuine confusion arising out of some hitch. There's a deliberate effort by some people to hamstring the process and skew it in their favor. And the incidents are not isolated. We've seen it in Ningo Pram Pram. We've seen it, but the bulk of the disagreements have arisen in the Ashanti region and the Eastern region. And these are supposed to be the strongholds of the MPP. So if in the places where you are strongest, you are having this level of discontent among the grassroots activists of your party because they feel that the process is being skewed in favor of powerful people, then there's a major difficulty. So any party that is interested in organizing properly and ensuring that they are able to maintain their momentum and go into election and win would not take such chances. But to the extent that the leadership of the MPP has been derelict and they did not put in place the proper structures, because you see, this is not the first time that they are going to hold polling station elections. And I'm sure it's the first time that you are hearing this extent of confusion. Because polling station elections sometimes hardly get heard of because they pass without incident because they are very regular activities. Right. And even within the MPP, this is the very first time that we are seeing this extent of confusion. So it is on that basis that I am criticizing the management and handling of the affairs of the MPP by the current leadership. It does not appear that they are up to the task. And they are displaying a level of incompetence that is unbecoming of people managing such a big party.
Are you learning any lessons from this? I mean, it said that when you see your neighbor's beard on fire,
of course. Even
you have to go through the same process.
Of course. But
are you learning lessons?
Of course, but we have done this over and over and over again. We will be doing it sometime during the course of this year. We do not anticipate these problems. That is not to say that you will not have a hitch or two. But if a hitch arises, it should be due to genuine difficulties, not because somebody stepped in and wanted to skew the process. But more importantly for the MPP, given what befell them in the 2020 elections, you would have thought that they would learn lessons. It is because of these disagreements that they lost many seats across the country, so that their parliamentary majority was whittled down from 169 members to 137 members with an independent candidate. There were places where you would close your eyes and predict an MPP victory, and yet they lost because the leadership of the party failed to handle things in a fair and transparent manner. And people felt aggrieved and protested by the way they voted. So we definitely will do things much better. It doesn't mean that you won't find a hitch or two, but we will not put in place a system that is heavily skewed towards some interest within the party.
Let's talk generally now about the performance of the Nana Addo Dankwa administration in its second term. And it's been quite eventful. I mean, on the back of COVID, on the back of the new dynamics we see in our world currently, there's a whole lot to talk about. But before we break them down to the bread and butter issues, what would be your brief assessment of the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo administration in this second term, a year and a few months?
Well, as you may be aware, I'm a long-standing critic of President Akufo-Addo. I did not expect that he would perform creditably based on what I knew and what the evidence pointed to. But even I have been left shocked at how poor he has been as a leader. And you see, the problems have not arisen only in the second term. They have been there ever since he took office, except that perhaps they have been more pronounced now because some realities have come to play. They have failed to impress. They have flattered to deceive. They have mismanaged the affairs of the country such that now we are virtually on our knees. Our economy is in complete shambles. There's widespread suffering, there's pain, there's anguish, there's anxiety, there are economic hardships. There's hardly any sector that is being properly managed. On a daily basis, we have to wake up to fuel price adjustments. Only yesterday, I learned from some traders in the business district that some items that they purchase on wholesale basis and sell have been increased by about 15%. Only yesterday, there was the announcement by the transport unions that come Saturday, transport fares are going up by 15%.
15%. Right.
And so you see that there is general gloom. There's a pall of hopelessness hanging around or over the country. And it arises directly from the very poor leadership of President Akufo-Addo and his government. So yes, you could say that.
Before you continue, because yes, I said that we should focus on the second term. Yes. But are you insinuating that it's been all wrong? We've gone downhill throughout the Akufo-Addo administration. You say you are a long-time critic, yes. But the first term, for example, we made a lot of economic gains. The GDP, the dynamics of our economy in terms of inflation rates, in terms of how much we were raking in at the end of a year. We were in a pretty solid place, weren't we? Economically speaking. And there are other things that have been done in terms of infrastructure and others. Are you saying that you didn't see any of that, the digitization, and digitalization? You didn't see any of that in the first term? For which reason you think it was all, bad?
Well, I'm not sure of any exceptional digitalization or digitization, whatever it is that they choose to call it, that has taken place. That is
there's the Ghana card that has now become efficient. It's been linked to our TIN. There's a SNIT.
Yeah, the Ghana card process
as well.
The Ghana card process.
The SIM card re-registration.
Yes, the Ghana card process predates the Akufo-Addo government. But the point is that
but they executed it.
Well, I'm saying that they
with 88% coverage now.
They came to meet a process. It started under the Akufo administration. You could even argue that the system that allowed that to begin even predated the Akufo administration. So what we have now is a culmination. But the difficulties we are facing now stem from the decisions they made in their first term. It was not the case that they did anything extraordinary to the economy. As far back as 2016, after we took some corrective measures to address the economic difficulties of the time, it had been known that our economy was going to grow in leaps and bounds. Indeed, the World Bank, the IMF, all major international financial institutions predicted that we were going to grow in excess of about 8% going forward. But when the policies of the Akufo-Addo government kicked in, you saw a downward trend, leading to the recording of the lowest growth rate ever in our history of 0.4% in 2020. In 2021, it wasn't any significant growth that we recorded. This year, we won't record any significant growth either. But look at the problems that have arisen. We've become totally bankrupt as a country. We are broke. Our debt is unsustainable. There's no way we can pay it if we continue to go through the motions as we are doing. Our deficit is unheard of. The exchange rate has taken a tumble. The price of goods and services are rising. Unemployment is at an unprecedented high. People are suffering. They can't make ends meet. The president himself says he is anxious, he is anguished. The one who we have elected to solve the problem is also lamenting the problem. So you see a general state of mismanagement, of hopelessness that is attending the performance of the Akufo-Addo administration. So it is not only the second term that we've had these problems. The problems started a long time ago. As I speak to you, there is such a severe cash crunch that there's not one sector that is performing properly. Go to the education sector. Basic things like providing textbooks for basic students have been in arrears for 3 academic years. The most basic payments at the basic level, the capitation grant, is also in arrears for about 2 or 3 tranches. You go to the colleges of education. Indeed, the whole of last year, they were in school for just 3 months out of a possible 9 months because government could not remit monies to the schools for the principals to run those schools. Even the much vaunted free SHS is in disarray. Only a day or 2 ago, NAT came out and said that government should make good its commitments as far as payments for feeding are concerned. Chas earlier on had
yes, but we've heard from the PRO for the
but we've had these excuses.
The Ghana education.
We've had these excuses.
We've made it categorical that
we've had these excuses.
To be fair, whether it's the buffer stock or it's payments from government, it is clear that the government will always be in arrears at a point. And it was same under your tenure.
Now
you had similar incidents under your tenure. You can't run away from it.
We set up the buffer stock company. As I speak, I hear that they owe as much as 300 million Ghana cedis.
130 million was paid over the weekend.
Well, 300 million Ghana cedis. 130 million is
just on Friday.
Well, it's not even half of the amount. So the debt overhang still persists. The District Assembly's Common Fund, they have been in arrears for 4 tranches. Indeed, we are told that the District Assemblies have been asked to go and borrow money to cater for their needs, pending release of funds from government contractors. are owed over 8 billion Ghana cedis, and that is just road contractors. Fertilizer suppliers.
It's not just from the Akufo-Addo
fertilizer.
tenure. It feeds from your tenure, the John Mahama tenure into this one.
We did not have as much debt as the Akufo-Addo government has accumulated. Fertilizer suppliers are owed hundreds of millions of Ghana cedis. So there's a severe, even NAPCO recruits are owed several months arrears, compelling them to demonstrate sometime last week.
They should have been cut off, but there are moves to reclaim them. Is that not a good thing?
Why? As we speak, nobody knows exactly what's going to happen to them. And who, in his right senses, sets up a scheme that runs for only 3 years? After 3 years, what should the recruits do? So clearly, there's a huge problem with the management of this country as far as the Akufo-Addo government is concerned. They have not been up to task. They have been an appalling failure. Now look at broader issues of governance. Look at the security situation that we have. You have a situation where government itself is at the forefront of abusing the rights of its citizens. People commit crime with impunity. I mean, you in the media, I'm sure, are sitting on tenterhooks now. You have a situation where, based on what you say, if you say something that even turns out to be misleading, you could end up in court with the potential to go to prison.
But that there are laws, specific
laws.
Well,
but those are bogus laws. Well, apartheid was a law until some public-spirited individuals got rid of it. Indeed, President Akufo-Addo, the criminal libel law was also law, was it not? Did you not shout from the rafters that he detested it and had it repealed as Attorney General? So how come that he's happy with a law that criminalizes falsehood? Clearly,
let's stay there a bit. Let's stay there a bit. Sure. It's interesting that you bring that up. Publication of false news, it is within our law books, and it has its own consequences legally speaking. It's not the administration technically. I mean, if you look at the arrests, Bobiansa, is it Oheneba, the one who was recently released, the Power FM gentleman. If you look at Oliver Barker-Vumo and his statements, if you look at Mensa Thompson, it's the police picking up these people. So where lies your allegation or your displeasure? Well, is it with, and I know the police is part of the executive, but is it with government or is it with the Ghana Police Service? Because some have targeted the police service and said that the IGP is being too boisterous on this.
Well, I mean,
so where lies your?
First of all, the case that sent Oheneba to prison was initiated by the President's Attorney General. So there's no dispute as to where what he said related to the President. And the President took exception and had his Attorney General file contempt charges against him, which made him go to prison for 14 days. If in this day and age, somebody can go to prison for 2 weeks for saying something that the President believes is untrue, then we are in serious trouble. The matter relating to Bobiansa revolves around something that he said about the First Lady and the wife of the Vice President. In any serious jurisdiction, investigative bodies would have moved into ascertaining whether or not indeed the First Lady and the wife of the Vice President had abused their positions to do anything irregular. But in Ghana, we are actually targeting the journalists for potential imprisonment. Asepa, what did he really say? He says that the President's relatives, daughters, if you like, family, used the presidential aircraft over the Christmas period. How in the world does this raise a situation where you put...
He came out to apologize. Actually.
Yes, so he came out to apologize. So why then do you arraign him before court with the potential to imprison him? Now, the president himself, in the period that he was campaigning to be president, he said many things that I know to be
the law also has different aspects, apart from punitive aspects.
But whatever
it also has aspects to prevent, forestall similar incidents. So when these people go through some of these, maybe it might prevent others from doing that.
You see, we cannot criminalize speech. People cannot go to jail because they said something that was untrue. If that principle was ever applied to President Akufo-Addo, who is applying it now, he would not have been president. He would have ended up in jail. Because I know for a fact that at least on 3 or 4 occasions, he said things that were absolutely false. One of them was that he said President Mahama had printed diaries to the tune of $10 million. If this law was applied to him, he wouldn't be president. He would be in jail. So I'm not sure that we as a people should countenance this sort of behavior. But you see, it stems from the president's posturing. Here is a president who has not cared that 8 Ghanaians were gunned down in the course of elections. He has not even publicly commented on the matter. He has not expressed commiserations with the families who lost their relatives. He has not indicated any preparedness to compel the security agencies to look into those killings with a view to punishing the culprits. He hasn't said that. Look at the issue of corruption. We know of corruption cases that have arisen. Some of them are so glaring, the evidence is there, and yet the president has not taken any action whatsoever. against any of the people who belong to his government who engaged in this. You are talking about a president who in hard times, very difficult times, with all the difficulties that we are all experiencing, with all the cash crunch that is making it impossible for government to meet its commitment in critical areas of the economy, the president decides to live lavishly. Apart from allocating billions of Ghana cedis, over 3 billion Ghana cedis to his office, he decides that despite our ownership of a presidential jet, which is fit for purpose, according to the defense minister, he will fly in an aircraft that costs $14,000 an hour. And despite public criticism, public demand for him to stop, he will not listen. He has remained obstinate and does not care a hoot about what you or I think about that particular matter. So there's hardly anything that is happening in this country that is desirable. And it is making the lives of Ghanaians very miserable.
Okay.
There does not appear to be hope on the horizon beyond getting rid of this government at the next opportunity, which is in 2024 when we go to vote. So really, my assessment of this government would be that those of us who warned or cautioned against electing President Akufo-Addo stand vindicated today. It is unfortunate that we have to go through this hardship in order for people to appreciate the point.
Let's appreciate the hardship from,
sure.
from the bread and butter issues.
Sure.
And we have something we've started here called the living standard, which paints the picture of what people are feeling when it comes to, you know, the kinky, the brudo, and other matters. And so let's talk about the e-levy. We have a budget, you know, projection for the 2022 fiscal year of 100.5 billion. Of course, that is a projection. We would have to do certain things to be able to raise that basket of money that we need. Ken Ofori-Atta, the finance minister, has told us that out of the tax-paying, you know, bracket, those who should be paying taxes of about 18 million Ghanaians, you have only 2.4 million paying. That's a deficit of what? Just about 15.6 million. You look at the fact that in the town hall engagements that have been organized on the back of the e-levy, we have some of them talking about the fact that if you want better roads, we cannot give them to you unless you support the e-levy. If you want security, we cannot give that to you, as you keep complaining about happenings up north and in other parts of the country, unless you support the e-levy. We've had a member of parliament also, you know, speak to his constituents, say that free SHS will go if you don't support the e-levy. We also know the MPP has said that the e-levy will increase Ghana's tax to GDP ratio from 13% to a targeted 16%. How do you feel about this economic adjustment when it comes to the e-levy and the fact that without it, economically speaking, we're going to be doomed?
Well, I mean, the finance minister and his government are obviously dabbling in propaganda of the cheapest kind when it comes to the sort of things that they are saying. To begin with, we estimate that since 2017, this government has had access to about 400 billion Ghana cedis in taxpayers' money if you put all the sources together. If that amount has not been able for them to address all the problems that you highlight, what is 6 billion cedis going to do for them? So the moment you see these figures, you see that they are peddling on truths. They are not even respecting the people that they seek to govern, the people from whom they seek to take this money. E-levy,
if
at
you
most...
Consider, just briefly, if you consider the fact, and that's why I intentionally mentioned that out of the 100.5, it's a projection. Even if you look at, and Kojopoku pointed out that, you know, forcefully this morning in the course of the news review, you look at our debt requirements, debt servicing of about 30 billion projected. You look at the fact that we have our public sector wages, which is about another 30 billion. You see that we are in dire straits. And it is not surprising that Finance Minister Ken Ofori-Atta says, UTAG and the rest, you are calling for all of these things. Genuine reasons, but we simply don't have the money.
But the point I'm making is that, first of all, Ken Ofori-Atta, President Akufo-Addo, and Dr. Bawumia, who in any event has disappeared from the economic discussion landscape because he's afraid that he will come under backlash if he spoke, must admit that they have mismanaged the affairs of this country and put us in this situation. Because if you've had access to 400 billion Ghana cedis over a period of 5 years, and you've squandered it, you are unable to point to any significant things that you've done with it, and you come around to tell us that you need 6 billion Ghana cedis this year to resolve every single problem that we have, then there's a major problem. Again, if you look at the budget figures, the figures that you mentioned, the truth is that e-levy will not resolve the problems we have. Out of the 100 billion and 500 million Ghana cedis that they only project to get. Indeed, some economic analysts, and rightly so, have predicted that that projection is overambitious and is not going to be achieved because they are seeking to increase revenue by 45% over the previous year's collection. They collected 57 billion last year. And they say this year they will collect 100.
And is it unrealistic? Because
it is unrealistic because they've not.
I mean, the GRA collected, like you rightly pointed out, it overshot its projection.
It is not, even that is not unusual. Over the years, they've done that. But the point is that they've not shown any underlying calculations that should give you or I any measure of confidence in the ability to meet that projection. They did that only because they wanted to artificially please investors. You know, the people who buy our bonds have lost total confidence in our economy.
That is not reflected in.
Well, if you allow me to explain. If you allow me to explain. Well, but the ratings reflected more than ever before.
Moody's has given us, but when it comes to S&P and Fitch, it's not the worst you could.
It's not true. Fitch has.
Moody's gave us a CAA1.
Yes, but it's not just Moody's. Fitch also downgraded us. And by the way, CAA1 is only 2 steps away from the worst.
My point, Felix, is that where we find ourselves when it comes to the S&P and Fitch ratings are not the worst ever.
True. Yeah, but
when it comes to Moody's, I can take that.
As far as Fitch is concerned, it's the worst ever in our history. They've downgraded us from B to B minus with a stable outlook.
I'm saying that it is not the worst. It is not the worst
ever.
In terms of its rating.
I'm saying
you're not getting me.
Yes.
It has a rating of course, from let's say A to whatever. It's not the worst.
Let us be clear. Where we are is the worst ever rating we've received in 20 years. The ratings began in 2003 under President Kufuor. These ratings are the worst ever in our history. So that alone points to a major deterioration of the economic environment. The second point is that even though they are just 1 or 2 steps away from the lowest ratings you can get, they are terrible. And they reflect the kind of loss of confidence that investors have in our economy. As I speak to you, since October 2021, we have been shut out of the international bond market. In the whole of 2022, we will not have access. We will not get a farthing from there. And some of the rating agencies believe that in 2023, the cycle will repeat itself. So government cannot look forward to getting any money from the international bond market. Now, if you look at the budget carefully, at Appendix 232, it shows that whereas this government claims that e-levy will reduce their borrowing, the budget shows that this year they intend to borrow 5 billion Ghana cedis on the bond market, international bond market. This will increase to 15 billion Ghana cedis in 2025. And e-levy is included in the calculations that government has made in its own budget in terms of its revenue expectations.
Right.
And yet it does not resolve the problem because all the 100 billion Ghana cedis that they project to get, even if they get it in the most optimistic scenario, all of it will go into just 3 items. Compensation, as you said. In any event, our interest payment is 45.3 billion Ghana cedis for this year. And we have gotten there because of excessive borrowing. In 2016, when President Akufo-Addo, Dr. Bawumia especially, was all over the place, jumping from one platform to the other, grinning from year to year, and making mockery of the NDC, we only paid 10 billion Ghana cedis in interest. He said it was unheard of.
But
there has been a 500%.
Times have changed, of course.
But who changed the
dynamics are different, and we have COVID.
Who changed the dynamics? Well, COVID exacerbated a terrible situation. By 2019, our debt overhang had become unsustainable. Indeed, COVID, in my view, became a blessing for this government, even though it was a hardship to the people of Ghana. Because they got monies, they got a windfall that is unprecedented.
We're going to talk about
they got almost
of 33 billion.
They got 33 billion Ghana. No government has benefited from that kind of windfall. Indeed, look at our revenue shortfalls in the COVID year. It was just about 15 billion Ghana cedis. Yet they got 33 billion Ghana cedis, and yet they squandered it on electioneering with a view to winning the election. After that, they plunged us into a huge hole, a budget deficit of 15.7%, which is unprecedented. And coupled with the debt overhang, these two have ensured that we face the worst economic situation in the history of the Fourth Republic. So it is clear whose fault it is that we are in this hole. It is the fault of President Akufo-Addo, Dr. Bawumia, Ken Ofori-Atta, and everybody else who is involved. And the prescriptions that they have put forward to addressing these are inadequate. It will not resolve any problem. Indeed, it will worsen our situation. Now, it is not the case, though, that Ghanaians have not made sacrifices already for this government. Mind you, in opposition, Dr. Bawumia, once again, and I repeat, he has disappeared from the economic discourse because he does not have the courage to face up to the reality of the situation that the economy has been mismanaged. He condemned taxation. He said that they were going to move from taxation to production, which meant that we were not going to be saddled with the level of taxation we are seeing today. Remember that since 2017, this government has introduced over 23 different tax handles. and increased some of them. So if Ghanaians are resisting the e-levy, it is because there is taxation fatigue. Ghanaians have simply had enough. They are simply unable to afford any more taxes.
In a minute.
Sure.
And I want you to be very, very brutally honest, candid with all of us Ghanaians. Picture yourself and your party in this current situation. Without an e-levy, what would you do?
First of all, but we will not be in this situation.
No. So hypothetically, you are in this situation.
The point is that we have never been in this situation. We would never have gotten it. Because
you had critical issues.
Of course,
just picture yourself. And I pose that question. I pose that question, Felix, on the back of the fact that you say the e-levy is not the way to.
Yes, but it is not. If you look at
so if it isn't, what would you have done differently at a time like this?
Let me say it emphatically. We would never have gotten into this hole. You said we had Doomsor, but we didn't have this situation. We didn't need e-levy when we were in Doomsor. And if this government faced Doomsor, this economy will collapse. In fact, it has already collapsed. But perhaps the situation will be much worse than we have today. They have not had Doomsor and see the mess that they are involved in. Our General Secretary has made it clear that even in the unlikely event that e-levy ever gets through Parliament, we will scrap it. So we are clear in our minds that e-levy is not a panacea. We would never have gone for e-levy. You see, the problem that this government faces is that they want to live extravagantly. They want to live lavishly at a time when we are in economic difficulty. Let them cut expenditure. Let them cut out non-essential spending and focus on those aspects of our economic life that are absolutely critical. Let them rationalize expenditure based on revenue expectation. They cannot live a champagne life on an Akwateshi budget. That is essentially what the problem is. And we will not have
a champagne life on an Akwateshi budget.
You cannot have money that can only buy you Akwateshi and hope to live the life of somebody who drinks champagne. That is essentially the problem that we are having. Right. So everybody knows, every basic economic student knows that in times like this, what you go for are cuts in your expenditure in the areas that are not essential. But this government has loaded the budget with so much non-essential spending, and therefore is unable to meet the most important expenditures while sacrificing the most, critical ones. So we will first of all not have driven Ghanaians into, look, in 2020,
so your solutions are, I see you going back.
Just a
but the question,
but you see, when
we don't have all the time.
Yes, but you see, when
but
you
I just want us to do this.
Sure,
I just want us to get into
I want to illustrate the point I'm making.
Right.
In 2016, there were elections. Our deficit was 6.1%. We could also have decided that we were going to spend beyond our means to win the election. We didn't do that. So that is a sign that we are a responsible party and that the leaders who manage the economy were responsive to the needs of the people. But they did not do what was not unnecessary in order to win elections. This government chose to do what was completely unnecessary in order to win elections, and they are here. So that is the difference between us and
what
them.
Would you do differently?
First of all, the extravagance will go. The waste, the Auditor General has disclosed that up to 12 billion Ghana cedis has been lost.
We've heard.
In terms of real, like when we were in power, it was 780 million Ghana cedis.
Right.
Even that is unacceptable. So we would work to reduce that further. But you cannot have a situation where we are throwing 12 billion Ghana cedis down the line on an annual basis, and then you go and tax people. We will also ensure that the corruption that we are witnessing is abated. And then our policy prioritization will focus on those things that matter to the people in education, in health, in infrastructure provision, and social services that are absolutely necessary. We will not engage in fanciful political laced with propaganda,
just to wrap
sloganeering.
On the bit of the e-levy before I cap off with you on the hardcore politics of breaking the 8. You hinted initially that even members of the majority were not in support of the e-levy. What makes you think that? I mean,
I don't get
does it?
Rephrase.
You made mention initially that even some members of their own fraternity are not in support of the e-levy. Do you feel that feeds into what is happening, for example, with the Dominic Kwabenya member of
Parliament? That is the only explanation that one could offer. I mean, this is a government that says that its entire life depends on the e-levy. It is the be-all and end-all of everything that they need to do this year. Even though that is completely untrue based on the figures that they...
But do you feel that is why the likes of Sir Adwoa...
Otherwise, why is Adwoa Safo clearly unwilling to participate in the passage of the e-levy? We in the NDC are certain that all 137 members of Parliament who represent us and their constituencies will vote against the e-levy without question. And they've demonstrated that on many occasions. They've gone to extraordinary lengths to ensure that it does not happen. But the NPP does not appear to even have the capacity to mobilize their members to pass the very thing that they say their lives depend on. Adwoa Safo clearly is uninterested in this whole gambit and therefore is unwilling to come down to participate in it. And I'm sure that if ever this e-levy was put to a secret vote in Parliament, there will be many that will vote against it. We've seen some conscientious members of the MPP vote against party positions in the past through the election of Speaker Bagwin. We all saw it. There was an MPP candidate, yet they voted for Speaker Bagwin. At least 2 or 3 of them voted in favor of Speaker Bagwin. So it shows that there are a few conscientious ones in there who will do the right thing if they did not have to live with the intimidation and harassment that will come.
So let's get on to this matter of, yes, you're going to face off with the MPP come election 2024 for the parliamentary elections, where I know you're going to hope to get many more parliamentary seats, and crucially in the presidential election. But the MPP sometime later this year is going to elect its flag bearer. Whom would you rather go against? And here I'm pitching the 2 major candidates that have come to the fore. Alan Chemating or Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia? Whom do you feel would be better to go against, and whom do you fear?
The fact is that the MPP are going to engage in a race to the bottom. It's an ill-fated decision they will make. The point is that whoever they bring will lose. And they will lose because...
Will lose?
Yes.
Dr. Bawumia, for example,
he will lose.
Hold on, he will lose. To have excelled.
Excelled where?
In terms of the digitalization drive, that he's been very prominent. That in our 4th Republic, he's been one of the most vocal and effective and efficient vice president.
I have had occasion on another station to deflate and debunk that propaganda about his leadership of the digitalization drive. We don't have time, so I will not go into it. But the point is that what he is noted for, or his claim to fame in the past, was economic management. He has been so spectacular that he is running away from the very record that he has supervised. As head of the economic management team, he has supervised the worst economic situation under the 4th Republic. This will make him completely untenable as a candidate for the MPP. Exactly what is he going to tell the electorate? Who is going to take him seriously after all the falsehoods that he peddled have been revealed for what they are, falsehoods? The man does not even have the courage to step out there and defend his economic record. And people are saying that he's not a viable candidate. I'm not sure why people are even motivating him. You see, all you need to do in a campaign against him is to play his own voice. And that finishes the matter. You perhaps not even campaign.
Think Dr. Bawumia as flag bearer?
He will be a terrible candidate. He's a poor candidate.
He will be cool chop for the NDC.
Well, you see, we are not overconfident people. So we will not dismiss anybody we are up against. But the reality shows that Dr. Bawumia has no credibility as we speak. Nobody in the Ghanaian space takes him seriously beyond his own hype men.
Does Alan Chemating have more credibility?
Alan Chemating too is a member of the economic management team. So he is part and parcel of the catastrophic governance that we've seen over the period. So he cannot extricate himself
of the management team. So I mean,
no, but he's a member of the management team. He's a member of the economic management team. He is trade minister. So he's a key participant in economic policy making for the MPP. So he cannot extricate himself from the terrible record that they will be living in 2024. So I don't see that he is a viable candidate either against who the NDC will present. So I would not want to be in the MPP's position. They are in perhaps the worst situation they've been in since they were founded. Both leading candidates do not inspire confidence. Their records are shambolic. Ghanaians have lost confidence in them. And some of the polls that I saw you discussing earlier on before I came on suggest a dramatic decline in the fortunes of the MPP, even within their own stronghold. So I am quite frankly surprised that nobody in the MPP is doing the analysis. Nobody in the MPP is looking at the numbers in a cold, calculated way to see what strategy best suits them. But they are going on hyping themselves and pretending that Ghanaians will all of a sudden forget this terrible, draconian situation they find themselves in and go and vote for whoever they present.
So point well made. Just to sum up, maybe in some 30 seconds, and it's a wrap. If you had to rate the Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo administration in its 2nd term on a scale of 1 to 10.
Oh, they've been exceptionally poor. They will get 2 for me. In fact, for the entire 5 years that they've been around, it's been 2 out of 10. It's been a complete disaster. He has exceeded my expectations, even as a critic. He has been so poor that I did not expect that he would be that poor, despite my opposition to him over the years.
All right. Yeah. Felix, thank you so much for joining us this morning. Felix Kwachiofosu, of course, former Deputy Minister of Information, joining the conversation. A very happy birthday to Wazaria Helena Issa of the KIA Port Health. We wish you all the best of God on this special day. Wazaria Helena Issa of KIA Port Health. We wish you the very best. And once more to Captain Prince Kofi Amoah being retired. Today's your 70th birthday. May you age with grace, and we wish you the very best. Well, this is how we cap off the conversation this morning on the AM show. It's always a pleasure. Let's reconnect same time tomorrow, but at 10 and at noon, we bring you our major bulletins of the day. My name is Benjamin Akakpo. Thank you for watching.